io son già stufo e ho provvisto altrove. Urbanevo, io non ti urbanevo, io non ti voglio, io son già stufo e ho provvisto altrove. Urbanevo, io non ti voglio, urbanevo, io non ti voglio, che già di là dal po', che già di là dal po' passato il merlo. Corri, 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 corri a vederlo, corri, corri a vederlo, corri, corri a vederlo.
It's not the worst I've looked. It's just the most I've ever cared. Not the worst I've looked. I've looked. It's just the most I've ever cared. It's not the worst I've looked. It's just the most I've ever cared. It's not the worst I've looked. Just the most I've ever cared. It's not the worst I've looked. Just the most I've ever cared. It's not the worst I've looked.
There it is, Oregon Leather Company. I don't know that I've ever read that. Thank you, Lolly Puna. I think they're Krauts, actually, despite the name, which sounds Hawaiian or something. June 20th. I hope you're recovering from your Juneteenth festivities. I know I am. You know, when I get to celebrating black liberation, there's just, there's nothing I won't do. So, yeah, it got pretty humiliating last night. In the autonomous zone that is Portland. People ask, do we have one? And they think, oh, you guys were building one, right? I think that was just a case of the Antifa at one point started grabbing the cyclone fences, chain link fences on stands. That the fences that were around the Justice Center, they're constantly climbing on them and threatening to push them over. They're not that violent because if they wanted to, they could just rush the cops, really. But they moved some fence around, and they were going to, it's really pointless. The tally for what they are wringing out of their police budget, keep in mind, is a $250 million police budget. Yes, I'm still smoking. It's up to $27 million. Latest I read in the Oregonian. I have to read the Oregonian now because, I have to stay abreast of all this shit. Welcome, Josephine Cotton, Good-Eyed, Oswald, Vij, Goings Down, good to see you. Big Ron in Baltimore says, nothing matters if you don't care. Well, yeah, that song, that hipster song is perfect. It's not the worst that I've looked, it's just the most I've ever strikes me as a hipster trying to maintain that affected indifference, which is part of what got us here, part of the negative force, or the negative part that got us here is affected indifference of white people for a long, long time. My whole life, certainly I was guilty of it. From early on, you've seen it. They try to cast it as if you worry about race or if you worry about women in the workplace or any of these bullshit things, it's because you're, excuse me, it's because you're an own inferiority, sexual, racial, whatever. And what you learn to do, what we all have learned to do without thinking about it, is to affect indifference, or to force the indifference on ourselves, which is worse. It's okay to be revolted by the idea of something like interracial marriage, because we see the end of it, It's not the shallow thing they make it out to be with their shallow Freudian horseshit. That's just, this irrational fear. So you pretend you don't care about this or that. And, and you grow old and you end up here. The whole time you're pretending to be indifferent, thinking that this shit was going to straighten itself out somehow. And things do straighten themselves out, but, as you see, the way they straighten themselves out doesn't mean you're going to be okay. And we won't be the first people who were cheated out of a civilization, one way or another. This is bizarre, and it certainly is worth our attempts to understand what is going on here with these masochists. Are shameful masochists. But it doesn't really matter in the end. Really, for any white American right now, if you're apolitical, whoever you are, it doesn't matter. All their bullshit doesn't matter. Remember what I've been telling you for years? Even if they were right about it being the greatest crime, you would still have a right to live. You should want your people to live. That's all they want in their dumb way. And if they weren't encouraged by evil actors, even our blacks would be relatively reasonable. Even they would be restrained. And people, the bizarre, contrary dynamic is working this, right? The two opposites poles of the dynamic are the weirdest thing in the world. That, on one hand, it's just black rage, and I don't for a minute think this is the ultimate. This is a proximate cause, not an ultimate cause. This is more a means, even black power, even though it will be very real in many ways, it's not the end goal, and it won't be a true thing, and that black people won't be running things. But they're very cunningly, is that... In cunning fashion, they are forging out the best possible deal they can get, given their gifts, they're such as they are. So for the average American, all you need to understand is this is, it's what it is. It's this hate of you mediated through the police, the last people who are going to protect you from these people. And even calling out who isn't important at this point that much. They've simply thrown away the mask. It hasn't slipped. They've just thrown it off in contempt. Fuck you. Yeah, look at us. We're too far along. We're tired of playing around. This last whelp of resistance that was Trump, What's the nature of a bully? He's enraged the moment the weakling tries, in his weak fashion, to defend himself. Good-eyed requests Blaze Foley's clay pigeons. Okay, we'll get to that. Indians Goings Down says, I've listened to decades of black radio in New York City. Never once did I hear about Juneteenth. Now it's a big deal, and now it's just more to our shame that we haven't been celebrating it already. That would be a better holiday than Martin Luther King's birthday, which is just weird and perverse. If we have to have a holiday, just make it that. Good-eyed says egalitarianism makes no sense as long as blacks have a distinct culture. What are we supposed to do? Assimilate to their work? That is exactly what it's about. It's been about that for a long time. These people, say what you will about them, they are dominant and they do want to dominate. And their culture dominates by, however it got there. And they think naturally, we're supposed to run shit, man. You know how black folks think. I mean, we're best at basketball. We're supposed to run things. This is their logic. We're best at music. We're supposed to run shit. And there's a powerful argument for owning a culture and determining society. Of course, it'll be a complete disaster to the extent we genuinely adopt black values. But this whole time, civil rights has been disguised for black people. And I don't even put this down. This is natural. It's been a disguise for black people trying to forge a black way of life in white society, which must be terribly oppressive to them. Good, decent white society, the kind that we want and deserve, is oppressive to them. And it's not because we're oppressors. And this is what everybody's missing. And you can't say, but it's the fact. They're not adapting to it. Why has it always been about law enforcement? It's been about law enforcement for 50 years. In the 60s, it was about law enforcement. They were assassinating cops as the BLA, Black Liberation Army, and others. So that's always been the point of contention because that's where their values come up against ours. They're very different ideas. That's leaving aside the fact that they have no understanding of our idea of objective universal values. As individuals, they seem less capable of understanding it, and even those who are so-called intellectuals who use the language, to me, seem obviously just adapting the language to the promotion of black nationalism. It's always been black nationalism. Civil rights is always, for them, has always been black nationalism. Its real problems are, again, this bizarre dynamic I was going to mention. It's that for black people on their side, and on the white people's side, it's this white ethnomasochism, this weird, harder to explain thing, obviously. But the fact that it rolls along, sort of like a magnetic force, off, negative and positive poles, that drives it. Again, it shouldn't be. People just keep saying it shouldn't be, right? We're all banging our heads against the wall. Visionary says, why shouldn't we assimilate to their culture? A therapist of my acquaintance says. Yeah, you might tell them, well, because we, Enlightenment, universal values have determined this culture that we're promoting is not, in fact, quote-unquote white, is it? It's universal. And theirs isn't. Theirs is quote-unquote racist. Of course, you never get anywhere. We're just so far beyond reasoning with people. And for both of these groups, these opposite poles, it's entirely emotional. It's entirely emotional response. And they are, both sides are going as far in their particular way as as we let them, as the elite will encourage them. And we've been waiting for years for these white dummies to wake up to their friends. And it hasn't happened. And now this all of a sudden thrown into, it's accelerated, and all of a sudden this dumb utopia of theirs is made real on the ground in CHOP, Chaz, whatever. Okay, now they're going to wake up, right? Someone was shot and killed in Chaz last night, of course. It will eventually start cracking up. But the problem is the disaffected white leftists will have nowhere to go, except like regular people just dive into the oblivion of home, sheltering in place. Visionary says, when Cornel West presents himself as a prophetic philosopher, what he is really saying is that he is not a philosopher, just a black revolutionary. Yeah, and he's the bullshit guy, right? These people have been humoring, black folks. It should be obvious to them now. This is not hyperbole, It's not hate. But it should be obvious to the elite by now that there are a great many black people in this country who will just go out and start killing people if they think that's that's what's allowed next, and if they're encouraged to. Well, they're only doing it in Minneapolis. They were shooting at cars. Minneapolis crime is blowing up, of course. Well, they're already targeting us. What do you do when every respectable institution, every respectable individual in society is foursquare behind a clearly immoral madness? What do you do? I think everybody right now should. I encourage anybody whose voice might make a difference, who can emerge from anonymity. I think we should all just emerge from anonymity and just fucking congregate somewhere right now. Like fucking, what's that movie? That Spielberg movie about the aliens when they all go to the Butte? We need to all receive some alien-like communication and get this vision of a Butte somewhere, Montana, and all go there and just freak them the fuck out. I don't know what we'll do. Still, their biggest fear remains that we have any sort of a freedom of association. Remember, when they're limiting the speech, the real thing is kind of like freedom of association is the real problem. Because they just don't want us to connect and be able to, right? And the moment anybody, remember, and this is years now, remember, the moment anybody tried to even have a physical meeting somewhere, they were harassed, endangered. And what do you do when all the media, like every respectable institution and individual is behind this murderous thing, right? It's already got a body count. These riots are not as violent as the 60s riots for the body counts. Probably because they're more white and they're more Antifa. They aren't genuine race riots. Hey, Thomas. Good-eyed says, I'm actually so pleased about all this, but there is no recourse. Yeah. There's no recourse yet. Recourse may present itself. You know. Still. And the whole thing continues in its comic bullshit fashion, too. It's still a joke here. It still is, maybe, I don't think there have been any serious injuries. The police have been kind of handcuffed about what they can use and do, of course, and haven't made a lot of arrests. But nobody's been seriously hurt. Remarkably, and it suggests a good deal of discipline on the opposition's part, I think. The contrived nature of the whole thing, broadly, is, the fact that this is just an outright conspiracy is revealed in the media's lockstep, in their very language, how they all adopt the same standard language, and how there's just nobody's breaking. And you got to recall, when you see this, well, there's a handful of people who own the media companies. There's a handful of people who are saying this is, who are enforcing this. You can fit them in a room. The people who are, they've never had to, who has never had to operate this much out in the open, to the extent, nobody's still talking about it, but it's kind of like Epstein. I keep flashing back to Epstein, how the thing about Epstein was it happened out in the open, and it was like the elite said, we're not even going to try now. We're not even going to try. Yeah, it's going to be a suicide, and we're just going to sit back and say, okay, prove it. We know you don't have an attention span anymore. We know that you don't have anybody on your side, so we're just going to wait it out, and they got away with it. And when I think about Epstein, I think it would be so easy. The conspiracy wouldn't be that, especially in the case of Epstein. Some public figure who you could get to, who you could put down in front of Congress, say, under oath with severe threat of jail, had to take an order, basically, like, for instance, the warden at this had to take an order from somebody to make some sort of arrangement. It can't operate completely in the shadows. It's not no fucking Kaiser Sose shit. The things work, and Epstein showed us they work because nobody will dig it up. Why in the fuck wouldn't you drag just everybody in the chain of custody with Epstein, every single one of them, drag their asses into an interrogation in front of Congress? Says, you're going to fucking jail if you lie. The kind of pressure they put on people to try and nail Trump for whatever. And you would find it. So I think they saw what they could get away with Epstein. And one thing. But I think in O'Keefe's recent expose of Antifa, someone in there says, and this was a couple of months ago, we're going to need to put a lot of people on the streets soon. So this thing was in the works for a while, and it wasn't, they didn't know they were going to get George Floyd. I think they tried to make it at Ahmaud Arbery first. That one isn't as good. With George Floyd, you had this great lurid video. And so that's when they sprung it. And it's so fucking obvious, It can't be an accident that that handful of people who control our media are this delusional, believe this horse shit, and just happen to hate Trump and want him out, right? And just happen to have been doing everything we've seen them doing up to this point. So it's kind of like them going all in. Of course, I've been thinking this forever, and it's never really happened, but, I keep thinking, okay, it's so outrageous, like now, it's so outrageous that they're so far gone that they can't relent at all, because once it starts falling apart, and if things ever really got back to genuine, this hard ground of sanity, and we saw things clearly, they would be revealed as engaged in this great fucking sinful fucking crime. So there's no going back, And that would certainly be true now if there was only, any glimmer of accountability on the horizon of, any glimmer of us reclaiming some part of, the U.S. government and its institutions. Somebody was writing, I wish I could remember who it was, pointed out that, the assault on the cops is, of course, the assault on the last non-leftist, aside from the military, which is kind of halfway there. But it's the last institution that the left doesn't own. And it's a big one. And it's the one that's pumping up against blacks and their struggle to forge a black nationalism. Their way of life, force it on us rather than the reverse. But it's the last place because of the nature of the business, right? Because it's right up against the reality. It can't be paused unless it renders itself, something other than what it is in an Orwellian fashion, like they're doing, like they're trying to do with it. And say they took out, like I said, I wish I could remember who wrote this, but he pointed out they've taken out the military, essentially. At least they've got the brass, and you see that the generals are turning on Trump. And a lot of Trump's inaction might be a genuine realization that he can't really act. Certainly not with the military, even if he could invoke that act, because they might defy him. Of course, the rank and file military is not that. I mean, they've got it diversified enough. But your rank and file enlisted military white guy, maybe even the junior officers, remain a problem for them, and they'll be coming for those guys soon enough. Like I said, they have moved in. And just as things are calmed down, last night, they're still out. But it's just a low-level occupation. It's something like the occupation, the first occupation movement, when they occupied that park, what was the park? The private park in New York. But they're not bringing their tents and trying just to stay there. Still, there's a constant presence, and people are coming and going, stationed in the park across from the besieged Justice Center, where the courts and criminals are. People awaiting trial and stuff. They would let those criminals out if they could. So it's just that low-level thing, and at the same time, Joanne Hardesty, the radical progressive city council member, basically runs a town for the moment, is backing off of the complete defunding of the police and talking about taking them over. And whether they had this in mind going in, or they're just realizing the possibility, this thing is going to shift. This defund the police thing will shift. And scarily, it will have more chance for purchase Nobody wants to just slash the cops and be rid of them. They're just going to take over the cops. Broke is defund the police. Woke is become the police. And they're just going to take over the functions and shift as much as they can to social workers and their fucking thing, whatever it is. And there will still be police function. There'll still be people. They're going to inherit, whether they know it or not. They're sitting here and they stand a chance in taking over the police outright, of inheriting what? All of that information, all of that surveillance data and information. They will have inherited a little fucking Stasi. I don't think that's hyperbole, do you? As well as a whole shitload of guns. They don't want to defund the police. They're not stupid. That would be merely stupid. They're evil. Remember that. So we're in a scary phase. It's kind of lighting up. They're consolidating their gangs. And I don't think it won't break out back into the open, soon enough. Break back out into, whenever they want. They can crank it back up. And like I said before, with all these donations pouring in, they've got money right now to keep people in the streets. They've got all the money they need to keep people in the streets right through the end of the year. Insane Spurgman says, you're just an ignorant... sorry. Thought you were talking to me. I was going to say, I resemble that remark, sir. All right. Cognitive says, James Baldwin claimed he could spot a real racist whites because they couldn't even bring themselves to point out his deliberate BS. By this standard, the majority of whites are racist. Yeah, well, they are by that stupid standard. I don't take the idea of racism seriously. Yeah, but on its basic level, of course, they all are. And you see, these are unreachable people on both sides, black and white, from different perspectives. They are people who will not be reasoned with when they don't see that basic distinction. Visionary says Baldwin is overrated. Yeah, I never submitted myself to no Baldwin. I just can't stand the guy. This homely little gay black guy whose real beef probably was that, he couldn't live in the black community without getting his ass kicked every day, being somebody's bitch. But he could hang around in New York intellectual circles. He still resented these whiteys, I guess, because he's black. I read The Invisible Man, or Invisible Man, by Ralph Ellison. That's a good book. I read it when I was young. I found a tattered paperback copy in my house. My mom would read all kinds of shit, and I would pick up random shit. Invisible Man. Yeah, so I had no idea about the background, but it was a well-written story, and you could sympathize with his plight, the guy. Of course, Ellison wasn't. Was kind of an individualist, and he was half white, I think, or light-skinned brother. And the story is pretty funny. And it's about him coming up from the South and falling in with the white progressive commies and the sort of early Nation of Islam types. There's even a character in there called Ross the Destroyer. There was already, the fiery Jamaican immigrant type on the streets of New York, Anyway, they all suck. Good-eyed says, hardly anybody has woken up to Jay Power since 2016. Yeah, no, maybe even Trump just further kicked that can down the road. And all this shit works against us because it's always an opportunity for earnest or otherwise not earnest Jews to stand up too against it, you know. So we're on the same side when we're not, you know what I mean? You know, I don't resent some secular Jew who doesn't want to go along with all this and wants to throw in with us and maybe save it. I don't resent those guys. I don't think every one of them to a man is bad or down with this, but you know, I can't. It's a problem for us. We cannot accommodate them, and it's not our fault. It's their fault. Just like with the black criminals bitching about cops, it's not our fault. You should blame the black criminals. If you're a secular Jew who's appalled by what's going on, go to your community. Go to temple and stand. Do they talk in temple? Stand up and just denounce this. Denounce this madness. I beseech you. I admit my anti-Semitism. It's not what you think. I still call it political anti-Semitism. Political anti-Semitism. That's what it is. As a political reality, you know. This is a faction that wants my destruction. That's all. There's no hate. I sure don't think I'm going to be rid of them. I know that the future, if I could carve out even survival for us, will include them. I don't even care. I just want us to live and thrive, free of anybody else's influence. Is that bad? Goings Downs asks, do you follow Andy Nowicki? No, I should, though. Has he got a channel? I know he gave a good little monologue about this shit. In these goings down, says the last 2 weeks have been a major paradigm shift. They saw what they could get away with after 4 years of undermining Trump. It's surreal to see it play out, no matter how much we predicted it. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird to see, you know, the almost worst so far, the almost worst sort of predictions, right? It defies, you know, like I said, it defies your reason, it just defies all sense of reality. It's surreal, but you know, so we have to say, wow, God, then the worst is possible. The worst, you know, jackboots kicking in the doors is very clearly possible. And maybe worse than that, we're seeing that this thing is capable of weirdness and gross stupidity that we didn't even imagine, right? I'm still appalled. Again, I just keep banging my head on the wall at the depth of this white masochism, you know. And yes, too, how far black resentment goes. But we don't even know, because we only hear from those, you know, those angry blacks and those weird, cucked out whites, and we don't know the real sympathies out there in the real world. It remains a kabuki, right? It remains this weird thing that it always is with media manipulation. It remains them, they've cast it as, you know, they cast this absurd narrative story. They've thrown this story in front of us. Gotta let the cat in here. Come on, dummy. So they cast this comically absurd tale about this hero, this, you know, this thug tale. And we're supposed to buy into it. Everybody in suits on TV pretends like, oh, so everybody buys into it. And it works because it's usually on a lower scale, you know. It's localized, you know. It's Rodney King or it's here or there, and okay, yeah, the LAPD is going to have to pay, but we can still sit here and watch it on TV just like we watched the Iraq War, and we're okay. And they've kind of been getting away with it, right? But now it's like everybody, right? You're in Portland. Your perfectly fine police force is ripped apart because of this thing. This is a whole different level, right? An end game acceleration. So we have to see if they can get away with it, because now it's real, and you know they're going to keep going. They're not going to let up, and it's not going to return to some sort of false normal, even though the whole time we've been led along by degrees to this madness. Cognitive says lots of treacherous non-Jays engage in this selective outrage too. Group interests of non-white pushed by brainwashed or intimidated NPCs concerned for their future employment prospects. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I don't know what it's going to take to wake them up. I don't know if we can live without waking up some of them, disrupting this, so we can have some breathing room to separate out. Yeah, in these goings down, says Andy Nowicki has a YT channel, one of the few dissidents to nail the last 3 months. James LaFond is having you and him as characters in an action novel. That's what James said. Me and James Nowicki are going to... He told me the scenario. I hope he doesn't write it, but I'm obviously flattered. But, yeah, he might be taking a piss on me and Nowicki, too. That's cool if that's the case. What was that request? I'm going to feed this kid. All right, let's have a musical interlude.
Anyway, this is called Clay Pigeons.
Oh, I love this song. Yeah.
And not there. I'm going down to the Greyhound station, gonna get a ticket to ride. Gonna find that lady with 2 or 3 kids and sit down by her side. Ride till the sun comes up and down around me about 2 or 3 times. Smoking cigarettes in the last seat. Try to hide my sorrow from the people I meet and get along with it all. Go down what people say, oh, sing a song with a friend, change the shape of a man, and get back in the game, start playing again. I'd like to stay, but I might have to go to start over again. Might go back down to Texas, I might go to somewhere I never been. Get up in the morning, go out at night, and I won't have to go home. Get used to being alone. Change the words to the song, start singing again. I'm tired of running around looking for answers to questions that I already know. I could build me a castle of memories just to have somewhere to go. Count the days and the nights that it takes to get back in the saddle again. Feed the pigeons some clay, turn the night into day. Start talking again when I know what to say. I'm going down to the Greyhound station, gonna get a ticket to ride. Gonna find that lady with 2 or 3 kids and sit down by her side. Ride till the sun comes up and down around me about 2 or 3 times. Smoking cigarettes in the last seat. Try to hide myself from the people I meet and get along with it all. Go down with people say, oh, feed the pigeons some clay, turn the night into day. Start talking again when I know what to say. Thanks. It's called
Thank
Clay
you.
Pigeon.
Blaze Foley. Yeah, I love that song. John Prine died recently, of course. I don't know how John would feel about all of this. He was a simple man. Andy Nowicki. Let's go see what Andy's up to. We should try and make contact with Andy Nowicki. We are going to be in a scene together. I think that's Andy. No, I've got to see this. All right, let's watch this. This is Andy.
As I wander through the Georgia forest right now, I'm going to recount my story of how I became unemployable. Essentially unemployable. I am working right now. I'm not going to tell you where or in what capacity. I can tell you that it's in a non-prestige kind of job, which is fine with me, by the way. I'm not saying I'm too good for where I'm working.
I'm with you, man.
I am,
I'll take anything.
however, noting that given the potential that I had as someone of I don't know, at least above average intelligence, and who has had academic training, an academic background, who has a pretty good resume, academically speaking, how I nevertheless became unemployable. Of course, we live in a time of what could be called soft Maoism, or soft Stalinism, whichever you prefer, one form of totalitarianism or another. But it's not the variety of totalitarianism where they're going to come to your home late at night and drag you away for questioning and then throw you in prison without a trial or
Not yet,
execute you summarily. Generally speaking, those things don't happen, although they do probably happen unofficially. In fact, I'm quite sure that they happen in an unofficial manner, but they don't happen conspicuously, and they are contrary to the law, contrary to the Constitution. Not that the Constitution means a whole lot to those who are in politics or who practice law today. Intellectual outcasts, and who are seen as simply beyond the pale. Even though their beliefs and my beliefs are not the same, we still get along and I have talked to them and done podcasts with them, and been acquainted and been friendly with them, and we share certain
This is
things
just fucked up.
in common, but not others. So it doesn't matter, though, the fact that we share anything in common, and the fact that I have had them as friends, and currently even still have them as friends, and won't denounce them, and won't renounce my friendship with them. That also puts me beyond the pale. Now, to me, the honorable way of behaving with a friend is you don't just turn on him if it's gonna if continuing to be friends with him is going to be trouble for you. You don't just denounce your friend, renounce your friendship or your acquaintanceship because they tell you that if you are within any proximity with certain people, that you must be this bad kind of person. And I don't do that. So I've written the things that I've written, said the things that I've said that run counter to the way that you're supposed to think, the way you're supposed to believe, and in the when it comes to my social status, I have made friends with people who are seen as verboten, who are seen as people you're not supposed to be friends with. And it's kind of strange because, the kind of people who hold you to these kinds of standards, they're often friends with people who have beliefs and opinions. There is another paradox or contradiction in what you often hear. You hear about people being online and being anonymous, and how cowardly it is that they are anonymous, and that they should step out. They should be required to step out and reveal who they are. And then people who do step out and reveal who they are get punished for their lack of being in accordance with what is considered acceptable discourse, acceptable bonds of discourse. They get punished in the sense that their names become mud, and they become more or less unemployable. So it seems kind of contradictory, right? If you're going to disparage people for being anonymous, but then tell them that if they reveal themselves and reveal themselves to hold to a belief that you don't like, and that the ruling authorities don't like at any given time, that they become radioactive, essentially, and nobody wants to be around them, and certainly no one wants to hire them. I mean, what kind of can you really blame people for being anonymous online? Can you really blame them if that's the way dissident thought is regarded, if that's the way dissident thinkers are treated? But I hasten to add that has never been the case with me. I've never been anonymous. I've always put my name on everything that I write, except for there was a couple of fiction works that I did under a pseudonym, but that's the exception that shows the rule. And the reason why I put my name on things that I write, and the reason why I have a name, I've put my name and my face with my my channel here, is that I'm proud of the things that I write. I'm proud of the stands that I take. You know, if I were writing anonymously, or if I was writing under a pseudonym and people were reading it and they were thinking to themselves, this is good, I wonder who this X is, this you know, this pseudonymous writer is, and they weren't knowing that it was me who was writing it, I admit that that would be injurious to my pride, because I like to
Yes.
claim that which is mine and that which I am proud.
Yeah, I don't know what he's going to say next, but there's more to it than that, too. It's okay to have that pride in it, because you also have to stand by it more. You aren't just intimidated by the powers that be, but objectively, even if they weren't there, anonymity versus non-anonymity changes the way you express yourself. You know, it has to, and I don't understand how exactly it might, but I know that all else being equal, we should always return to the ideal, which is the ideal. Everybody just gets to say basically what they want under their own name, and there are no repercussions, because you live in a society that isn't pitted against itself, of course.
Proud of having written. So in part, it's been my pride that has insisted on keeping me going, keeping me
It's the only thing that keeps me in the
public.
game.
Because, you know, why should I bend or stoop or otherwise take the knee, as it were, in a manner that, you know, that being pseudonymous does. So the question I want to leave with here is, how free are we really right now? How free are we in the free world right now? You know, you hear people say, well, yeah, there's freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean you're free from consequences to the things that you say. Okay. I mean, I agree that's fair to a certain extent, but what about when you have a system that stigmatizes and uses coercion to limit and shrink the degree of acceptable discourse down to about the size of a thimble, and say, if you're not here within this thimble, you're a bad person, you're outside of the bounds of acceptable societal opinion or discourse. I'm willing to take a hit for advocating ideas and beliefs that are outside of what's considered acceptable. I'm willing to take a hit. I think, you know, to be honest, you know, people have had it worse. They've certainly had it worse. You know, dissident thinkers in the 1st century AD, the Roman Empire, known as Christians, they certainly had it worse, in the sense that you know, their lives were on the line.
Or you might look at it as the Christians tearing down the old idols when they took over. It's kind of what our new post-Christians are doing.
They were often murdered, martyred, and you can take other points of history, and you know, if you're triggered somehow by me talking about Christians and and first century Rome, then just, I don't know, transfer it to a different time in history with a different set of people. They had it worse if their beliefs and opinions relegated them to death. But I don't think what the
But they were going to win. You know? And they were the new revolutionary force taking over from the old order. You know? We're in the position where these new Christians are unopposed, and they're just rapidly taking down the old Christian order. These post-Christians, with this hollowed out shell of false Christianity. God, can you hear those damn kids? Sons of bitches.
The thought criminal of our age has to go through. I don't think it is trivial just because he's not sentenced to death. Just because he's not, in most cases, arrested. Just because he's, in most cases, simply allowed to become a social pariah, and
not to the Christian.
And all.
Yeah, I was.
All or most expectation of livelihood gets removed from him. That's not a trivial.
This ends with him being set upon by leering rednecks who tell him to get his ass up in them woods now. Boy, you look.
Thing. It's not trivial in the least. Will it change? I don't know. I don't know. I don't see it changing. I see it getting worse. Then again, we are just about at the point where our civilization is going to collapse anyway. Maybe things are going to get more real than they even are now. I don't want that to happen though, because I happen to have children. I don't want to, you know, some of you might think it's cool to live in a time where things are falling apart, but I'd like for things to stay together at least long enough for my children to have lives that aren't fraught with danger and peril. Ultimately, all of these things, all of these questions are beyond me, beyond what I'm capable of doing anything about. But I just want to leave, in any case, I want to leave with the question: is this truly freedom? And if you are someone who says, well, yeah, Nowicki, you got what you deserved, you're smug and you're gloating about my lowly state, my low status male state. Well, just think to yourself, what would happen, or what's going to happen, if the tide turns against you and where you stand right now? Are you just the kind of person who will take an entirely different position once it becomes politically unfashionable to take the position that you're taking now? Are you that kind of person? In that case, you have absolutely no integrity. You just flow with the wind. But if you are someone with integrity and you're going to stand with what you think is the truth, no matter whether it's socially acceptable or not, well, what are you going to do then when what's become socially acceptable turns against you? Are you still going to be gloating about someone like me at that point, when you find yourself on the outs?
They're not thinking.
Just like the children of the revolution in France or in Russia,
Exactly.
or in China, or every other place that there's been a revolution. place where the revolutionaries suddenly become the enemy of the people, like the Trotskyites in Russia, or the kulaks in Russia, or the objects of ire for the cultural revolutionaries in China, or all the convulsions that happened during the revolution in France. You think you're so secure right now because you have the correct revolutionary stance on things. Well, I have a feeling you're not going to be gloating so much when the revolution turns against you. I have a feeling you're not going to be quite so smug when that happens, if that hasn't already happened. Again, I ask, is that freedom? Is that truly freedom?
Freedom got nothing to do with it, white boy.
I think that's it. I think that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching.
So somebody says that Andy had feds come to his door. Yeah. And you see the no-talent people that get whisked up into the Borg and work for our destruction, these idiots that they put in charge. Yeah. It's unfairness all around. It's sickening, really degrading and sickening when you turn on the TV and you'll see these black folks who've been put in charge now. It's things like Hollywood movies and shit. Again, this reveals the nature of the conspiracy in that, that those few people in control of media control Hollywood too, and Hollywood is just foursquare. Like they're ready to go. They're pulling Jimmy Fallon in front of Kamau Bell to tell him how he should run his show now, because he did that blackface episode 4 years ago when it was totally cool. Yeah, so you can see that. Just the naked workings of the conspiracy, in concert. Yeah, as we're going to drag a bunch of white entertainers before these ridiculous people who have no business running shit. Pretty fucking nuts. What's that you got there, Quasimodo? We're going to, drag a bunch of... Any day now. I'm trying to open that link you've provided, Quest. What? Yeah? I have a slow computer and connection, I think. Cognitive points out Seville contrasts well with the BLM stuff. Yeah, if anyone was paying attention. Here we go. Quasimodo provides a link. Let's see where it takes us, shall we? I hope this isn't to some dark web weirdness.
Hello, Andy Nowicki, altrightnovelist.com. Well, as you might know, nobody's here yet, but I don't really like the whole I'm going to wait a couple minutes for people to come in thing, because I just don't like to do that. And, this is going to be, if you're not seeing this live, you can see what you missed later. So I'm just going to dive right in to the exciting events of the day. Some of you might know, if you follow me on Facebook, or if you are among the significantly fewer people who follow me on Twitter, you might know, that I was visited by two friendly G-men today. There was a knock on the door. There was a rap at the door, and
A
I thought it
rapping,
was
gently
going to be
tapping,
just like
two
it sounded like
feds,
the
a
kind of
mapping.
knock that you hear from a UPS guy, you know, where they just knock and then run
Right.
back to their truck and you know, leave a package at your door. That's what I was expecting. I was expecting to open the door and see a package or something. And instead, I opened the door and I saw two well-dressed white men in their 30s,
Crew cuts?
and
Gee.
they said, I can't remember what they said, what their first words were, but I think they asked if I was, if they must have asked if I was Andy Nowicki, and I must have said yes, because I am, and then they said, we're so and so from the FBI, and they flashed their badges, and it was surreal. It was just a surreal moment. But you know, I just kind of went with it because what else can you do? It was the last thing I was expecting. But interestingly, I see that some people have commented. So, but I'll get to your comments and questions in a moment. I just want to relate all of this while it's still fresh in my head. Interestingly, I had just been corresponding with someone on some kind of social media about the supposed threat of an incel terrorist act on some army base in Oklahoma for when Joker, the movie Joker, premieres a week from this Friday. I was just talking about that with somebody, and then hear a knock on the door, and the FBI is there, and they're a legit FBI. Two guys, they flash their badges just like on a TV show or something. And I'm just standing there in the doorway, and one of them asks if I could just maybe step outside with them for a moment. So I did. I stepped outside onto the front porch area, not knowing what was going on. And so we began to talk. And I'm trying to, I mean, I think that a lot of the initial conversation, I just wasn't there. I think I must have been just not processing what was going on because I don't remember the first things that were said. I don't remember what they said exactly. I don't remember what I said back to them exactly. I think it's at some point I asked what this was about, and it was sort of like. And let me describe these two guys. These guys are early to mid 30s, clean cut, square jawed, good looking guys. No homo, but I'm just trying to describe them. White, you know, very red blooded American male looking types. And you know, young professional looking types. But the way that they engaged me immediately put me to mind of, you know, I'm a true crime aficionado. I've watched a lot of true crime shows. And you know how the interrogators go after somebody in that interrogation room. They pretend to be nice, you know, they pretend to be understanding, they pretend to be like, oh, you know, sorry to bother you, but I just want to ask maybe a few questions. You know, to try to.
I think all these guys watch those TV shows too and start to model themselves after that.
To try to basically get you to go along with them, to lure you along. So I was well aware that was how I was being. It's a very passive aggressive kind of thing. They're They're not standing there angrily spewing venom at you, but they're also, regarding you with suspicion. And so it was kind of like when you get stopped by a policeman, and he says, "Do you know why I stopped you?" Like you're supposed to guess. No. I guess you could say, well, I think I was speeding. It must have been speeding. But anyway, it was that same kind of thing. They weren't just coming out and saying, we're at your place because this, and this. It was like they were sort of trying to they were trying to sound me out, and see if I might know why they were there, until I think I finally just asked what's happening. And they talk, and what they mentioned when they mentioned something was something that I'm actually kind of embarrassed by, and that is a video that I posted. I think I'll maybe play a bit of it here, if I can find it. Okay, so this is a video that I posted a few months ago on June 29th. And this was something that I posted when those of you who follow my channel might remember this, caused a little tempest in a teapot, because my YouTube channel is a teapot. But I was basically in one of my lower, more melancholic kinds of moods, and I had a sense that death was around the corner, that I wasn't going to live long enough, that I wasn't going to taste 50. I'm 48 years old right now, 48 and a half. And I also was thinking, this YouTube thing, what am I really getting out of all of this? I really want to go, I'm a writer, I'm not a YouTube person. I don't really believe in this YouTube thing. I mean, I'm having some fun with it, but anyway, so let me show you the video that I'll show you a couple minutes of the video that I played. And this turned out to be the video that got me in trouble. Okay, so here we go.
Novelist.com. I've decided upon a kind of ultimatum. By July 4th, 2020, I will either be dead or retired. What do I mean by retired? I mean I will have accomplished what I intend to accomplish, and there will be no more need for what I'm doing here or elsewhere. I'll have retired. I'll be out of the picture one way or the other. Whether I'm dead or retired, I will be out of the picture. So it'll be about the same. But the ultimatum is July 4th of 2020.
Okay. And I go on for a couple more minutes in that video. But what I'm saying there is I set this date, this what I called this ultimatum date of July 4th, 2020, because that's almost like a year from when I posted that video. And, I was feeling kind of low, kind of melancholic, and I had this premonition, or maybe it was just depression, just melancholia. I'm not sure what it was. I still don't know for sure whether I'm prophetic, or I don't know, just reading into things that weren't.
Well, you can see what they used, right? I'm going to die. And so, okay, man, here's one. You might be ready to do a suicide mission. That's obviously what they're doing. And you can see, the plausibility if they had to answer for it. Obviously, they're not doing this to everybody. Yeah. And you could even see if he was genuinely, suicidal or something. He's driven into this melancholy by, this fucking madness. And they keep driving people into this despair, and it's, I think those earnest FBI guys that went to his door might not know any better. They're genuinely just foot soldiers who get this tip. Oh, here's a guy who might be a right-wing terrorist. Go check him out, guys. And still, in this madness that's going on, nobody's pointing out, where's the right-wing terrorists we keep hearing about?
There. But I set this date of July 4th, 2020, and you can see what I said just then was that by that time, I will have accomplished what I had set out to accomplish. And that whether I was dead or retired, I would no longer be doing this anymore. This meaning YouTube anymore.
I hear you, man.
This was kind of a silly post. I mean, it was a little self-indulgent. It was stupid.
I've got it.
It was true to how I was feeling at the moment, but
Better
it was
not
a
to
little
indulge.
melodramatic. I don't know.
Yes.
Also, I didn't make it clear enough that I wasn't going to commit suicide. I had to
You got to
clarify
state that
that
up
later.
front.
It was more just that I had a sense that I was going to die, but
You're
not by
a
my own
suicide
hand.
bomber. Say that up
And so I
front.
clarify that in a later video.
Make
But
that a
what I
disclaimer.
never thought someone would derive from that video was that somehow that I intended to, I don't know, commit some I don't know, mass shooting or...
Now, I don't want to defend him, but like I said, you can see the rationale. They're looking for anything. He shouldn't be that... It's stunning they came to his door. Yeah, still, And it's stunning of all the people in the world who might post just that same video. They're turned up at his door for obvious reasons. Nonetheless, you're just giving it. You're just handing it to them. Don't even talk about that. You've earned it, Nowicki. You've been cheated, yes. But don't despair. Just keep cranking out the writing anyway. It's good work, It's out there. It's all you can do. It's an unfortunate thing that the audience isn't out there, that you're denied the stage, but what else can you do? You were born for this shit. So keep doing it, and I guess maybe pursuing writing is barbaric now. We need to go to political action and organization, and that should be it. But nobody should despair. I mean, if you were suicidal, you're just checking out early. Might as well hang around. Go out kicking.
Or some terrorist act. And so getting back to the G-Man, one of the guys took out a piece of paper and it had a picture of me on it, and it had a transcript under my picture. And he read what I just quoted here, or what I just showed you here in this video. And the thing about, by that time, I'll have accomplished what I set out to accomplish, or whatever it was that I said. And so I said, yeah, I did say that. I posted that, but so what? What's the deal? What's the big deal? I don't get it. What's the problem? And so they said, eventually what they got out of me was that there was an anonymous tip. They got an anonymous tip from somebody. And they were told about this video, and so I guess somebody, appended this picture of me and then put this transcript under it of me saying these things. And at first I thought, oh, so this is like somebody who is concerned about me, who thought I might be suicidal. And is this like a well visit or something? I don't know what it's called, but where if you think somebody's about to harm themselves, sometimes the authorities come and check up on them. Somebody says, "Ooh, this guy's not
Wellness
doing
check.
so well." He
Yeah.
he's been expressing suicidal thoughts. Maybe he needs some help. Blah blah blah. So at first I thought, oh, okay, so somebody was afraid that I was suicidal, and then they said something like, well, maybe. And again, not really, tipping their hand if they can help it. That
Not
was their
telling you
whole
what they're
game, just
about,
sort
you
of,
mean? Yeah, they should say what
do
they're
you know
there
why
for.
we're here? Do you have any idea what this could be about? And again, no. So then they went on, just to clarify that the whole notion of by then I will have accomplished what I set out to accomplish was construed by whoever called in this anonymous tip as some kind of terrorist threat. And I guess also the fact that I had set this date, July 4th, 2020, that
Clearly, it's SPLC or some fuckheads, whoever, Voluntary Auxiliary Thought Police out there. Yeah, no, you can't talk like that. You cannot talk like that. You're handing them plausible, Next year, it might not just be a knock on the door, And who knows what sort of fucking list Andy finds himself on after this bullshit.
that I cited a date, and that it was that date, the date of the nation's birth. I guess that gave them further, further suspicion.
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable. You gotta think they're like children and they believe this shit. You can't be wowed by that, Andy. That's, of course. You should have foreseen this.
That this was something of a terrorist nature. But the crazy thing is, even when I recorded that video, I never thought this is hinting at anything like that. And so they said, well, what did you mean by accomplish? What you set out to accomplish? And I said, well, look, I'm a writer. I'm trying to accomplish things artistically, creatively, with an eye towards the culture. I wasn't as articulate as I am now because, of course, I'm talking to two FBI men who just ambushed me at my house. So I'm fumbling with my words, of course, a bit more. But I said, no, it wasn't anything like that at all. And so they kind of said, okay. And, again, they were acting like, yeah, okay, we believe you, and, we just have to check up on these things and blah, blah, blah. And they were generally nice about it. But all this time I'm talking to them, I'm feeling pulled in two different directions. Because on the one hand, there's still, when you're accosted by the authoritas, there's a part of you that the scared little boy who's about to wet himself. I wasn't nowhere near wetting myself, but I'm just saying that's what's part of what's inside of you that just wants to say, I'm not. No, I didn't do anything bad. Please, I'll do whatever you want.
No, it's important. I mean, automatically, law enforcement, if you're pure as the driven snow, maybe the type who is pure as the driven snow, the type of person who does obey the rules and is a good person, is all the more likely to be made intimidated just by the presence of law enforcement, but just by the intimidation of attention you get from law enforcement. Of course, they depend on that shit.
I'll do whatever you ask. Please don't suspect me of anything anymore. So there was that side of me, but there's also the side of me that's saying, what the hell are you bastards doing? It? How dare you? In the words of Greta, the little Swedish girl. How dare you? And of course, I mean, I know they're just doing their job in a sense, but it's just so ridiculous. So I was scared, but I was also outraged. And so I was trying to strike a balance. I want to be cooperative. I want to show them that this is mistaken, that they're, that they're barking up the wrong tree, that whoever called this in was either mistaken or malicious, and I suspect the person was malicious. I suspect this has got Antifa fingerprints all over it, as far as I'm concerned. Pretty weak saw.
Pretty weak, but not too weak. It doesn't take much, Andy. Don't hand it to them. Shit, man. God bless you, but I don't know why you're so fucking surprised. You know, certainly not surprised now, are you? See how far they've gone since this. Time to not be surprised, everybody. No, don't be surprised. Be not surprised again. Be not unaware.
Us, you know, but I don't generally say provocative things, and I've got, you know, my name is associated with the alt-right, so they do the best they can to I don't know, to try to portray me as a dangerous terrorist, and this is what they come up with. So I want to strike a balance between being cooperative and you know, not being hostile, you know, or anything like that. But on the other hand, not...
People in the chat there are telling him he should have recorded it. Yeah. If you think of it, if you get the knock and you can think of it, start some recording device. Get it on the record. And when you report it, be brief and quick and to the point. Cognitive dissonance points out Cantwell, still in jail, is he? Made stupid internet threats to probable Fed/Antifa honeypot crew who were posing as devotees of Dylann Roof. Attacking the honeypot was out there, telling him he should have recorded it. Yeah. If you think of it, if you get the knock, and you get. All right. What are you going to do when you get the knock on the door? That's what I want. I want ideas. Answer the door butt naked. Any non-violent response, right? Answer in some elaborate gear. I don't know. Yeah, and of course black people are attacking white people everywhere. As a result of all this shit. This is Atlanta. Everybody put their guns away. And they're assaulting the Trump rallies.
They came here to shoot us. No, they didn't. Make some space, please. Need you to make some space.
Nixon. Trump is claiming Nixon's silent majority. Oh my God, look at this. Okay. I want to see what's going on outside the Trump rally right now. There's Bloomberg showing the blockage.
Missiles or rockets or jet fighters, bombers. It's all built.
There go the MAGA
in the
turds.
USA.
I don't mean that in a bad way.
We passed VA choice. Thank you very much, Jim. Where's my senator? Jim Inhofe. You better vote for him. He's running. He's great. But we'll get to him and James Langford in a second. Two great senators. You have two great senators. So we passed VA choice. So if you're a veteran, for years and years, they've wanted to do it for almost 50 years. We got it done. We get a lot of things done. And so if you're a veteran, and you have to wait online for 1 week.
All right, we're all tired of your bullshit. We really want you to address, you shouldn't be holding rallies. You should be campaigning by leading, by forcefully leading. That would be the greatest campaign anyone could ever mount, by taking this and flipping the script on their asses. Come on, man. They don't have an argument. There's no reason. You're already isolated. They're already after you. Every day you should be giving a speech. You got speech, right? You got to have people who can write a proper speech for you, and you can give some eloquent, reasoned arguments, starting from why this is all bullshit. That we have the best police in the world, and we'd be ashamed to throw them away on this lie. Just take it apart. Now, they'll keep doing what they're doing, but the people will rally around. We'll vote for you if you just address this shit. Just take the bully pulpit. We don't even expect you to do anything. We don't know that you can. Like I said, we don't know that they won't fucking pull you out of office the moment you try to invoke the proper act. Campaign by leading the nation, you dumb bastard. He proposes a flag-burning law. That's what he's giving us, a flag-burning law.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, well, we're run by idiots now. Run by absolute idiots now. Our 75 IQ moral superiors are going to dictate to us how the world works. I hope you're all ready. In these goings down, said Tucker said it Friday, your voting does not work. Yeah, I wish he would get more to the point still. And I wish he would humor their premises even less. But God bless him, he's heroic. It's come a long way from getting called a dick on TV by that idiot Jon Stewart, who's in oblivious irrelevance now, sniping away at all this. Let's watch another Andy Nowicki. I want to see one more. We should reach out.
Y'all know that I'm from Atlanta originally, and y'all know, maybe if you've watched some of my prior videos, that I have turned against Atlanta with a fury and no longer want to live there ever again. And I don't even know if I ever want to visit there again. It's just devolved into a overcrowded dystopia, more or less. Well, Atlanta's in the news again, and it turns out that the DA in Atlanta has opted to charge the police officer Garrett Rolfe, who shot this man at the Wendy's, who was inebriated, who was intoxicated, who was violent, who had beaten them and then run away and stolen a taser, and was pointing it at one of them to use it, and then he shot him dead. Well, Garrett Rolfe has now been charged with murder. The cop, you're hearing me right, the cop who shot the guy with the drunk, cracked up, I'm guessing, multiple felon, behaving violently, behaving dangerously, who was attacking with a deadly weapon, and who was shot by Garrett Rolfe. The DA of Atlanta has turned around and charged Garrett Rolfe, the policeman, with murder. Straight up murder. He's eligible for the death penalty. When I heard this, something gave way inside of me. I realized that this was an occasion where it could not be clearer that this mob that's been fomented, it's not been this mob has not been something that's sprung up organically. This mob is, think of the color revolutions, think of Kristallnacht, think of various occasions through history where various authorities have ginned up mob violence in order to further their own aims, to further their own agenda. That's what these mobs that have sprung up in various places have been doing. Now, not to say that the people who have participated have been aware of this necessarily, although I think a lot of the mob, a lot of the rioters and so forth, I think a lot of them have been rented out. I don't think there's any doubt about that in my mind, that there is a contrived, astroturfed aspect to all of these riots. Nevertheless, what happened at the Wendy's in Atlanta was, I think, a spontaneous event. I think it truly happened. It truly happened the way that it was reported to have happened, because there's video of the event. Nobody really disputes the video of the event. Nobody really disputes the circumstances. And yet, so any sane person looks at these circumstances, these set of circumstances, and says to himself, this is not anything close to murder. This may not be, there might not have been anything even wrong with what Officer Rolfe did under these circumstances. Possibly it could have been handled better. I don't know, but things obviously got out of hand very quickly, and they were being attacked by this violent man who stole a taser from them. And guys, I need not remind you.
Can I point out that tasers and other non-lethal weapons are there for us so that cops don't have to use either their hands or their gun and kill suspects? And they're making it so the cops can't even do that. As they take away weapons, just like they do during the riots, they take away non-lethal things, ensuring that you're going to get more lethal encounters, or what they want is no encounters. What happened? Oh. Anyway.
I am not a cops. I am not a back the blue kind of person. You know, this is not my agenda at all. I'm well.
Me neither. I'm indifferent. The police are an indifferent institution, right? They're as good as whoever controls them. You know? And our police departments are pretty good regarding your rights and everything else, most. And where they're bad, it's usually where they're chocolate cities and where they're pretty rough. It's always correlated. If your city's not that rough, you can get away with the sort of European level of policing, obviously.
Well aware of when police have abused their authority, and I've had my own run-ins with law enforcement. I'm well aware of that. Piece of this entire story, or this you know, the whole gestalt of everything that's going on. I'm aware of that. You know, that there is the backdrop of acts of police brutality that have taken place, and there are dirty cops, certainly violent cops who have done bad things and have gotten away with it. All that is true, but in this case, what I find so revolting is it's so clear to me that they are going to try to throw this guy
Directly
to the mob. They're trying to appease the mob that is baying for blood, and this is not a mob, again, not a mob acting on its own. You know,
Yeah.
Spontaneous mobs are bad enough, but this is a mob that has been ginned up.
Yeah.
And you know, that's why.
Which is the real sin? Which is the real sin here? Black people, you're not comporting yourself well. You're not showing yourself well. Shamefully, I would say. But I don't blame you for this ultimately, you know? He's absolutely right.
Why it sprung up in various places across the world. This is an organized event. This is not just a bunch of people who all of a sudden decided to get together and demonstrate.
AstroTurf revolution.
And loot and burn stuff down and vandalize and assault people and so forth. You know, this has been a controlled thing. This has been an op. There's an aspect of it that, you know, there are people who just are who have turned out just because their feelings have run high and they've, you know, become a part of the mob all on their own independently. But that doesn't change the fact of what I was just saying a moment ago. But I find, you know, putting aside my my general antipathy towards cops, I find the whole idea, the whole notion of taking this young guy, 27-year-old man, who it seems to me did the best he could under these extremely trying circumstances with this person who was violent and who was drunk and who was behaving
Desperate.
feloniously in various ways.
See, that's what happens in these situations. So you got a guy, he's that big, pumped up on drugs or not, he's desperate. That guy bolted because he had a warrant or something. He didn't want to go back to jail. Some probation or parole or something, and he didn't want to violate some shit like that. And he's cooperating with the cops, and as soon as it becomes... That's why you get a video, oh, look how cordial it is. As soon as he realizes he's going to get arrested, though, then he bolts. And what does he do? You don't just, you know, maybe you act like you're going to fucking submit, and then you try and bolt. And you got a guy who's really big and strong, and he's determined. He's going to fucking knock you down. You know, it's not like the movies. You're not going to be Bruce Lee. You're going to have to use something that's actually you know, anyway. Obvious.
And who was a threat, an active threat. A taser is a weapon that can kill. This guy didn't show that he. I mean, it's not supposed to kill. It's supposed to just restrain someone. But this guy, Rayshard Brooks, he didn't seem to be somebody who was terribly interested
He wasn't trained in the non-lethal application. No.
in restraint at this point. So, unfortunately,
All right, thank you. We'll reach out to him. We should get him over here, right? Does anybody know this guy? Get him over here. I'll interview him. We'll make contact. With our friend, Andy Nowicki. You might know who I am. You don't know us, Andy, but we're harmless. We would like to include you in our spirit of what was the slogan Luke used to always jokingly say it? And there's something of radical love and inclusion. Yeah. All right. What's Holly up to? We should invite Holly. Oh. Excuse me a moment. I have to privately engage. Oh, shit. Passwords, man. What a drag, huh? Somebody stole my debit card. Yeah, turned up missing. I think they lifted it right out of the car last night. Couldn't find it this morning. I thought, oh, let me check online, make sure. And sure enough, somebody got on the train. Somebody went to the store. They spent about $30. Let's pause the card. All right. They've done it to me before. We're inviting Holly the cook. I know all these people are off doing other shit. I don't know. See if James could come in here. He probably doesn't have the capability. Otto's live now? Okay. Well, tell Otto to put in a good word for us with his friend Andy Nowickstone. Novicki. All right. Well, somebody come over here. I don't want to shut down. I go ahead and go watch Jonathan, but somebody come over here and talk to me. We'll have our own little side chat over here. I'll give you. I don't do content, motherfuckers. You know that. I ain't here to lecture your asses. I don't know nothing. Nothing at all. Right? This fucking cat here has a better understanding. This cat has a better grasp of things than I do, right? In his natural, primal, animal understanding of his environment. It's far more connected to me than I am. I'll confess to a lifelong alienation from the natural world. It's sick. Only now, late in life, I realize just how astute I am in the unreal. Who's the guy? The great, the BBC documentarian who does all, Adam, what's his name, does all the great documentaries on the Century of Self and all that stuff. We are alienated from the real world by virtue of television, film, and internet and everything else. And that's one big reason why they get away with what they get away with. They're doing exactly what they did in the 60s, And while the pattern plays out, the pattern of violence, capitulation, essentially rewriting the laws, and then more violence, on and on. Even though they're at different sort of ends of this long game. Before, when they capitulated, like Nixon and everybody did, it went hand in hand with laws that went hand in hand with, like, Nixon's return to law enforcement. And eventually the seeds of the true reform of law enforcement, cleaning up New York City and lowering the crime rate in the 90s, Clinton's now discredited crime bill and other things, kind of grew out of those riots and really out of the black crime that exploded in the 60s. But even the black crime that was not yet rioting, that precipitated all this shit, became essentially political, It became part of the, the whole process of driving us out of the cities and destroying, a lot of institutions that were white in the cities, of course. Police departments, even though they're still trying to shut down police as a whole, they've long, for a long time, they've been taking out individual police departments and always assailing the fire department. They hate for some reason they hate the fire department. The blacks, right? It's always problems when they go to put out fires in the community. It's funny. I think I have a hangout open here. Yeah, okay. Let's also do this. If anybody out there has the stains, you can come on and chat. Why are you not working, Mr. Computer? All right, let's try something else. Yeah. BLM isn't even a proper organization, you realize, and they're getting maybe $1 billion dumped on them through this process. The whole thing is a sham. And they're quickly getting, frontline respectability. All right, I'm just trying to open the broadcast to drop a link here. All right, just a moment. Everything takes forever. Adam Curtis, thank you. I would play a clip if I could. I don't know why you won't do that for me, Mr. Computer. Okay. There you are. Everything takes forever. All right, come on in. Jesus Christ. There you are. All right. So, here we are. We are under black rule. And they're going to determine all aspects of life now. They're going to revamp the police, and we're going to pay reparations. New York Times, 1619. Is that the date? project. It's going to be the new dispensation. They think they're going to get away with this shit. Cognitive Dissonance says the Bureau of Land Management should be cashing in. They could be useful allies. Maybe donate some federal land to the brothers. Yeah. Quasimodo provides a link. BLM gets some backlash from their own. Let's check it out. Oh, yeah, I saw this. Yeah, Muhammad Ali Jr. Well, you know, Ali was a conservative dude. He wasn't a complicated guy in his way. Yeah. I don't know where are the, you know, Charles Barkley is probably on our side. Shaq, he was a cop fan. You know, there's some silent brothers there just laying low. They'll cancel anybody, you know. LeBron James might be able to turn the tide, you know. There is a wokeness dividend, yes. Cognitive. I want to, when do I get my wokeness check, I wonder. Could they tie stimulus to wokeness? I think they should do that. Jeff Sessions is praising Donald Trump on Twitter. God bless Jeff, right? Trump just plays this stupid game, and Sessions says, yeah, okay. But keep doing what you say you're going to do. That's my attitude, too. You know. Don't engage his bullshit. Klan is trending. Okay, let's see what's going on. Klan is trending. I'm worried. I don't see what's going on with Klan trending, do you? Yeah. Twitter, it's so obviously manipulating stuff, right? Adderall. I bet you this Adderall trending has something to do with Trump. He was on Adderall. Does that mean he did well? Okay. The Blaze reports only 6% of BLM spending went to local chapters and grassroots orgs, while millions went towards travel and staff compensation. Yeah, well, at least it's doing less damage. It's just stimulus spending. It's unfortunate we're enriching them, but yeah. That's what I was saying about all this damned money. Fortunately, a lot of it will get sucked up in corruption, especially that stuff that goes to the community will just get spent harmlessly for the most part. But there's just harm just in monetizing, of course, the whole fucking process, even still. But so a lot of this money is going to find organization, you know. This is not run by the blacks. The sensible people with the little hats who are running shit are going to make sure that this money's put to use. Billion plus that's going to roll in right now. And they're going to mainstream BLM. I saw there was a billboard that the Portland Timbers are a local soccer club. They love them, you know. It's an alternative to like regular guy sports, right? They love their football. There was a billboard and it says Portland Timbers. It's got their logo and it was from a bank, you know, whatever bank. Proud partner. And underneath it, somebody, you know, I don't know if they realized what they were doing. Right underneath it, they had spray painted BLM. And I saw proud partner BLM, and I realized, oh my God, that is going to be a real thing. BLM is going to be an organization, you know, that fucking sits on, have a board and shit. That's what they're looking to do. Make it something like the ACLU, right? There'll be a BLM, and their mission will be, Black Lives. It's, this whole weird fucking movement. And it won't matter that they're wrong about everything because they're going to have $1 billion+ for starters. Until we fucking put an end to all this shit. Kush provides a link. Let's see where we go with this one. Is it going to let me? Of course not. Well, I'm trying to open this link and it's not letting me. Oh, just fucking open, for fuck's sake. Let me just close some stuff. Nobody's going to come to the Hangout. Fuck you guys. All right. Close this out. Difference. All right, come on. Open up, baby. Come on, sweetheart. Come on, baby. We'll be gentle. Just open the fuck up. Thank you.
Integration, it comes on the end of marriage too, right? All
Right,
been together.
right, sure.
And I'm sure no intelligent white person watching this show, or no intelligent white man in his or her right white mind, want black boys and black girls marrying their white sons and daughters, and in return introducing their grandchildren as half brown, kinky-haired black people.
I
I'm sure
I wouldn't object to that.
Well, you wouldn't, but a lot of them would.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people this is the
What
point,
I'm
though.
trying to say is this. You don't have it. You say you don't, but you don't have it. You really ain't gonna have it. You on the show and you got to say that.
God bless him, man. He ain't stupid.
No, that's not true.
Why would you want to do that?
Because
Don't you
I
love
don't
yourself?
think I'm any different from you. You see,
Yeah, we much different.
I mean,
Let's
I think
face it.
society's made us
You know
different.
we're different. We all together.
But society's made us different.
No, not society. God made us different.
No, we're just human beings. He made all of us.
We all listen.
This is
Bluebirds
glorious.
fly with bluebirds. Red birds want to be with red birds. Listen. Tell me when I'm wrong. Pigeons want to be with pigeons. Tell
have
me when I'm wrong.
intelligence.
Well,
We have an
we
intellect
must.
that
Well,
they
we should
don't
have. Right, they don't have intelligence, but yet
No.
they stay together. We should have more intelligence than them, right? Buzzards are with buzzards. Yeah. Buzzards are with buzzards. Bluebirds are with bluebirds. They all are birds, but they got different cultures. The eagles like to hang out in the mountains. The buzzard like to fly around the desert.
Well, there'll be
The
certain-
bluebird like to fly around the trees
There'd
and
be
the
certain
grass.
problems a buzzard mating with a sparrow, wouldn't there?
What?
There'd be certain.
Right. And that's,
I
we
mean-
have the problems too.
No,
I don't see no black and white couples in England or America walking around proud holding their children.
That's because
And
society.
going out.
That's society's fault. I mean, we've got to educate people around it.
Well, life is too short for me to be raised catching hell for something like that. I'd rather go and be my own. I have a beautiful daughter, beautiful wife. They look like me. We're all happy, and I don't have no trouble. I
Daddy,
ain't no trouble. I ain't that much in love with no woman to go through all that hell. Ain't no one woman that good. You understand?
I understand. Yeah, I do understand. I understand. But I think it's sad that.
It ain't sad because I
It
want
is
my
sad.
child to
It's
look like me.
attitude.
Every intelligent person wants his child to look like him. I'm sad because I want to blot out my race and lose my beautiful identity. Chinese love Chinese. They love the little slanted-eyed, pretty brown-skinned babies. Pakistanis love their culture. Jewish people love their culture. A lot of Catholics don't want to marry another Catholics. They want the religion to stay the same. Who want to spot up yourself and kill your race?
Awesome.
You a hater of your people if you don't want to stay who you are. You shame what God made you. God didn't make no mistake when he made us all like we were.
I think that's a philosophy of despair.
Despair.
I really do.
It ain't no
Yeah?
despair.
I think
Number
this-
one,
I think-
can't no woman. Let me
think-
tell you something. Yeah, I want to tell you. Listen, no woman on this whole earth, not even a black woman in Muslim countries, can please me and cook for me and socialize and talk to me like my American black woman. No woman, and last is a white woman, can really identify with me and my
Yes.
feelings and the way I act and the way I talk.
And that's still the fucking thing when people marry across in these fucking marriages, And usually it's the woman who just fucking bitches out and adopts the guy, like all through history. So when our women get stolen away, they get stolen away.
And you can't take no Chinese man and give him no Puerto Rican woman and holler about we're in love and you emotionally in love and physically, but really they're not happy because she's gonna hear some Puerto Rican music, he's gonna hear some Chinese music, and they're gonna be clashing all the time. It's just nature. You can do what you want, but it's nature to want to be with your own. I want to be with my own. I love my people. That's all. I don't hate nobody.
And he gets applause. And he gets applause for it. Yeah, it's a long time ago. I'm afraid that doesn't
But I do
work.
want to bring on our first guest.
Cosell.
He's
Yeah.
magnificent.
Howard Cosell. You young guys don't remember Howard Cosell, right? Oh, God. Yeah. Let me see if Black Lives Don't Matter anymore. Raz Simone is tweeting.
Instead of doing that, you're gonna wait here. You guys are that afraid? There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way they're that afraid to not save this man's life. There's no way. There's no way this could be happening. Are you guys kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is what you guys are doing? You could be saving this man's life right now. This is what we're doing? You guys could be saving his life. You could be saving his life. You could be saving his life right now.
We've not gotten cleared to do it.
You could be saving his life.
Say it over there right
Sir, please explain to me what's going on. He's
just
dying.
Medic 44.
He needs your help. This is your job. Is this in your heart to do
What's
this?
happening?
I want to make sure that we have not been cleared to move into this.
You are clear. We're giving you the clear. We will make sure you're clear.
That's negative, Medic 44. We're still working.
We will make sure you're clear.
Okay, we have a number of citizens.
This is in your hearts. If he dies, it's on you guys. You could have saved his life. You could have. You guys could have. This is bullshit. And you know it, sir. What if that was your son up there right now? Would you want this to happen to your son?
We are still at.
Oh man, this is amazing. This is what's happening in America right now. They're waiting to save this man's life.
You know what?
They're waiting to save this man's life. He's dying, bleeding out. If this was your son, you would bust through that crowd right now. But you're not, because it's a black life. This is fucking ridiculous. This is ridiculous. You guys, are you guys kidding me? Are you guys kidding me right now? Okay. Okay, this is what we're doing. This is the type of shit that we're doing. Are you guys fucking kidding me? This type of shit right here. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing out here.
All right. Okay, so looks like the medics were posted up outside and probably didn't feel safe going in just yet. Colorado ends qualified immunity. This is going to end well, too. This is more video from Raz.
Put it out, put it out. Hey, everybody, put it out. Yo, what the fuck, bro? Hey! Hey! Hold it. Get the shit out of the way, bro. Hey, what are you doing, bro? Yo, don't just throw shit. It'll spread. There you go. Don't use the gun. Get the building! Hey, move the gas for you. Water.
Water, brah. More water. we go. They're not going to get rid of the artwork either. We're going to have Black Lives Matter Street alongside MLK Boulevard. Probably be yet another place to avoid.
And it was quite a promotion. The nation of Chaz to get its first warlord. And it was quite a promotion for him. Just a week ago, Raz Simone was an up-and-coming rapper. He was also a superhost for Airbnb. Now, he's a monarch. In videos taken within Chaz, Simone is seen patrolling the area with his allies. They have guns. They're declaring, "We're the
Raz is
police
loving
now."
this shit.
In one clip, the monarch's men assault a citizen of Chaz for spray painting graffiti inside the zone. Just like the mafia, Chaz doesn't put up with nonsense like that in their own neighborhood. So that's what's happening in Seattle tonight. Not a big deal. A brand new nation within our own borders, yes.
Yeah. Governor Jay Inslee tweets, "I spoke with Mayor Jenny," it's the mayor of Seattle, "and her team about the situation on Capitol Hill. Although unpermitted, and we should remember we are still in a pandemic, the area is largely peaceful. Peaceful protests are fundamentally American, and I am hopeful there will be a peaceful resolution." So Jay is at least guarding his language. Mayor Jenny is not really talking about it right now, I don't think, which is pretty remarkable. There was a shooting here, and then now they're dredging up shootings everywhere, of course. So if anything happened in the last couple of years or more, maybe, that you can maybe try and hang on the cops as a bad shooting, these things are all getting revisited. And we had one here, Patrick Kimmons, who was a guy who was a gangbanger, and he was in a parking lot over here off of 4th, exchanging gunfire with a couple of other bangers, and then he turned to run, and he came across a couple of foot cops who were following the shots, running toward the shots, and he ended up getting shot. And of course, this was protests at the time, but now they're going to revisit this one, of course. And, nobody's safe now, as we see it with the situation in Atlanta. That's the Golden Dragon strip club at the upper left of the screen. Of course, I'll get those guys because they keep shooting. See the gunfire. He's exchanging shots and running away from the other group when he comes right upon the cops. Yeah, I think they're going to railroad these cops because maybe they're going to say he didn't have his gun pointed at them. They kept shooting.
Miss Antoinette, the GIFT people and the GIFT program, we helped out Patrick a lot. We dealt with him a lot, and we made positive choices for him. And he was such a charismatic individual. He's like I said, I'm not. It's like that old cartoon you see, you know, the coyote, Wile E. Coyote, and the sheepdog, or you know, the Roadrunner. You know, they don't.
Anyway. All right, what are you guys saying in the chat? Cognitive asks, were those medics in CHOP? Yeah, the paramedics were stationed outside CHOP. Somebody was in distress inside, and they were probably waiting to get clearance to go in. This guy runs up with a phone and is screaming at him, yeah, why aren't you going in? We'll take you in. And I guess they're not listening to him. You know, they'll hang whatever they can, of course, on the authorities as soon as they can. They're looking for a trigger. They're looking for, you know, something they can call an atrocity, some cop killing somebody or something. In these going downs, ask if we're overdue for a meteor. Yeah, well, if the meteor comes, they're going to frame it. You know, they're going to frame the end of the world as you know, Black Lives Matter and Orange Man bad, however they can. Who was interviewed, Kush, on Hotep Jesus channel? I don't know who that is. I just hear that name. I know he's like a black conservative guy. I don't have any interest in it. God bless him. Jesse Lee Peterson, God bless you, but no. You're the same problem I mentioned earlier with well-intended Jewish fellows who, you know, who genuinely want to turn this thing around. It's not my fault that we can't really be allies. It's not my fault they've driven this wedge between us. Go to your people. Tell them that. Cognitive dissonance says the doublethink is a mark of submission to the woke order. Yes, and the degree of the very mediocrity and repulsiveness of their heroes, right? Like this latest George. I mean, just that fucking face. He looks like Pac-Man Jones. Remember Pac-Man Jones? He was a cornerback in the NFL. Used to get in trouble all the time. He was just a straight-up thug. Got busted once for beating up one of his bodyguards, you know? But he had that face. It's just pure malice. Like, you didn't fuck with these guys, right? It's that fucking face of malice. And it's just perfect for this. And it's a measure of their power, right? The more repulsive the god, the idol they can raise before you, it's just a measure of their power, you know, via humiliation. Until it stops. So anyway, those officers were cleared, but nobody's safe. No one ever is safe. Let's see what's happening in Portland now. Been watching old Dick Cavett shows. It's sad how much smarter we used to be. Here's Coin. I haven't been out at all today.
One day after massive demonstrations on both sides of the Columbia River marking Juneteenth, the area is now preparing for the 23rd straight night of protests. Welcome to KOIN 6 News. I'm Wayne Haverly. Marches and celebrations took place across the metro area on Friday in honor of Juneteenth, the day slaves were fully emancipated in America. Jenny Young is live downtown tonight at the Justice Center with what we might expect to see down there tonight. Jenny?
The so-called Justice Center. That's how they phrase it.
Well, hey there, Wayne. So, been covering this for 23 days, and this is the first day that I have seen nobody here. It's early in the afternoon, though, but still nobody here at the Justice Center. Yesterday, it was peaceful by day, but unrest by nightfall around the metro area. On Friday, we showed you a group of peaceful protesters who started a march in Vancouver and took over Interstate 5. We're told they met with law enforcement in advance. State police shut down all southbound lanes from Washington into Oregon for almost 2 hours. They marched over.
Yeah, yesterday, even though it's become subdued, they still have organized actions. They'll shut down the freeway section. They've done it 2 days or 3 days in a row. So the presence is still there. And they're still getting their inspirational moments for the suckers who want to come in and contribute. Volunteer auxiliary thought police.
For the I-5 bridge and then headed back to downtown Vancouver. We spoke with a marcher who wondered how long Black Americans will have to fight for racial justice.
We're tired of being abused. We're tired of being killed by the police. We're tired of our children being mistreated. We're tired of our parents, grandparents being mistreated. And every single generation of Black people had to protest or fight for something. Why is that?
We also followed groups of teenage protesters. They marched downtown to the Terry Shrunk Plaza where they listened to speakers, and they wrapped up that rally with a prayer led by interfaith clergy. So last night, PPP did clear an unlawful assembly down here. They said that protesters were throwing projectiles at police, including metal balls from a slingshot, metal ball bearings. So we'll see what happens tonight. I know there is a peaceful group that is supposed to be gathering at Hawthorne Bridge. We're going to go over there. We'll show you live pictures from that area. Reporting live, Jenny Young, KOIN 6 News.
Jenny, you got ratioed 5-12 on the thumbs. I don't know why. That was a fairly competent report, except for the angry black man. I know you have to show us that. Here's what they did. So they're getting their big optics, man. This is a huge bridge way up there. It's the 5 freeway. And they are slamming traffic. It's already bad. These are people. So people are coming south out of Washington State. There's a lot of traffic, a lot of commerce traffic that goes over, before it gets to this, it goes over the Columbia. This huge trestle that goes over the Columbia. That has to get over this shit. So there's an ungodly traffic snarl behind this that they probably won't show us. Yeah. And of course, never a whimper of protest from the authorities. Way too many Hawaiian women. Yeah, they're at the worst. Here's our leader. Not this one. Ted Wheeler, who lives in a... Ted Wheeler lives in an apartment due to a divorce, and so he's out there, and they can assail his apartment that much easier because it's in town.
Breaking news this morning, a civil disturbance has been declared in the Pearl District after protesters tried to set up an autonomous zone overnight.
That's right. Neighbors there have been told to shelter in place while police have been clearing out that area. And we have been listening off camera to Mayor Ted Wheeler. We want to go to that right now.
Hey, Mayor Wheeler, we just started live right now. Yes. Yeah, we just started live. Can you tell people, kind of recap right now, why you're out here this morning after protesters were out here trying to declare an autonomous zone?
I'm out here this morning because there were a lot of barricades set up. There is a lot of trash and litter and detritus left from last night's demonstrations, and this is where I'm living. These are my neighbors, and I'm out here helping to pick up the mess that was left behind.
Would you ever let an autonomous zone be set up here in Portland?
No.
I do not want an autonomous zone set up in Portland. I'm watching what's going on in Seattle, and I'm not impressed. I think it's a distraction from the larger movement, and the movement is justice for black people. And I'm not in Seattle, obviously, but what I'm hearing coming out of Seattle concerns me. Armed people walking around in the autonomous zone, people being asked to show their papers and demonstrate where they're from at the entrance to the autonomous zone, businesses potentially being shaken down to be allowed to operate within the autonomous zone. So if you're asking if that's something I support, let me be unequivocally clear. I absolutely do not support that.
When does the autonomous zone start sending out the revenuers to collect taxes, right? They're probably already doing it.
And I do believe it's a distraction from the larger movement, which is to support and uplift black voices in our community.
Sorry, one more quick question for you. I know you want to go because you want to be cleaning up here, but what we've seen at the Justice Center is...
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I know, Mayor, you're eager to start picking up garbage because that's what leaders do.
That's what happens down here if we see this night after night after night.
I believe fundamentally that this isn't going to be solved just by the police alone. It's not going to be solved by me alone. And so today the conversations we're having are with faith leaders, with community, with others, community stands, and support the right to peacefully demonstrate and express viewpoints regarding the murder of George Floyd, demands for racial justice and equality, demands that we dismantle systematic racism in our community, but do it in a way that is nonviolent. And that's the message I really want to get across to people. Anything that's...
He wants the orderly dismantling of law and order.
Starts to move towards the violent end of the spectrum is really a distraction from the important movement that's taking place here across America.
Thank you so much, Wheeler.
Wheeler.
All right.
Thanks, Wheeler. Yeah, they don't even call him Mayor Wheeler. Hey, there's Wheeler. Yo, Wheeler, come over here. I got a question for you. Yeah.
This is admittedly a little weird, but to tell you a story about Portland's street response team, I have to show you video from Eugene. That's for two reasons. Number one, the street response team is based off of a program in Eugene called Cahoots. For decades, it's let 911 operators here.
They're going after all the gang programs and stuff. They're going after the gun programs. These were good, effective programs where they just tried to get to the hardcore gangbangers and get them off the street and get their guns. And of course, this is one of the, along with transit police and school cops, because these are the ones that are most egregious to the blacks. Their bullies keep getting arrested in schools, and they keep getting in trouble on transit because they don't want to pay or behave themselves. And too many, young aspiring rappers are falling afoul of the gang programs. So they're getting all those funds and transferring them to their shit.
Send teams of paramedics and mental health professionals to calls involving homelessness, drug use, and mental health emergencies. Things that aren't violent, but in most cities fall into the laps of local police. Not here. The second reason we're showing you this video is because Portland's street response team isn't a reality yet. The city had set aside $500,000 to get it up and running in the spring of this year, but like most things, the pandemic brought that to a grinding halt.
My heart wanted to go out, but I didn't want to do anything that might hurt the program or myself.
It's made Tremaine Clayton's job sort of awkward. After the city announced plans to officially fund the project last year, Clayton was the first paramedic with Portland Fire allocated to the city's street response team. A project similar to Cahoots, it aims at forming a more sensitive response to emergencies that arise in a housing crisis. It's also designed to give police some relief from having to serve as social essential workers, instead letting them focus on violent crimes. But thanks to coronavirus and to the city's subsequent hiring freeze, efforts to launch this team this year froze too. For months, Clayton has been literally the only person on it.
So I just maintained just the administrative side of it, not so much the outreach that I had been doing.
But now that's on track to change. Protests, riots, and national conversations about community policing are pushing cities.
Keep in mind, this program, like she said, it was really them trying to accommodate this issue, going to some expense to accommodate the concerns that the left's been raising about engagement with the mentally ill. The mentally ill is sort of the tip of the spear, point of attack on the cops generally. But that's not good enough. Now that George Floyd is our god, they just want all the money. They just want to take the cops entirely out of the process.
To rethink long-held spending norms, especially when it comes to using taxpayer dollars to protect the taxpayers. Here in Portland, Commissioner Joanne Hardesty came out with a big pitch, pushing the city to cut $4.8 million from the police bureau and instead use it to beef up and finally launch the street response team. If she gets her way, and if the city lifts its hiring freeze, Portland could have 6 teams of paramedics and mental health experts responding to 911 calls by this fall.
I'm hoping that we're starting to shift the conversation from law and order
She's hard to take.
to public health.
I should have warned you.
And so if you're looking at what's happening on our street through a public
response team is based off of a program.
I didn't understand. Street response team is, it's the new program. But anyway, no cops involved. And how in the hell are you going to have cops half the time? Because it's going to be somebody violent or unstable. And if you don't routinely have cops on the scene, you're going to have problems when you need a cop and he's not there when somebody, the nature of mentally ill homeless people is what? That they're erratic. Holy shit. The goal is eventually to eliminate contact between real police and blacks or any other favored community that can, achieve that status. As somebody pointed out here, because we're really in a battle and it's always a battle. Any of these political questions are always really not a battle over the objective truth. What is it? What is? It's really a battle over what we want to be, what we want, how we want to live. And they've spent all this time repressing your natural desire to live in a more traditional way, maybe. Now they're repressing the very basis of your civilization, Fun times. Cognitive dissonance says, I can see social worker brutality being an issue in the future. Yeah, your social workers are going to be thugs eventually. Right? They're going to be these big these big brothers who come in there and rough people up. It's going to be fun. It's going to be so corrupt. Because they'll turn it over to the community. Which is what always happens. As I am momentarily in a sort of intellectual lull, I'm going to play a song. See if I got anything to scarf down in here. We'll come back and close this out.
Fuck off!
This is kind of bullshit.
Here you go. I'll take the other one.
Please move out of the way so we can get to the victim. All we're trying to do is get to the victim and provide them aid. Please allow us to get fire into the area to provide them aid.
So it very well could be that Seattle police mustered their forces outside of the zone until they had the appropriate manpower to come into the zone. I don't know, but now you got another situation because you got the police who are now not necessarily surrounded, but there's definitely there's a lot of people out here.
No. The same shit you're dealing with every fucking day.
Move your cars. Go. Go. Follow the line back to our vehicles. Go, community. Go. Pepper spray. We're trying to get this. No, I know. I'm not a fan. Get out of here. Okay, move down this direction to our vehicles. We have a head count. Get your vehicle and go. Go over the curb and out. Jerry. If you got a two-man car, fucking go. Where is Officer Babcock?
Back up! No! Back up! Back up!
Say that again. He's not in his vehicle.
What was the status at HMC?
Move! Move!
Security
Move!
Just now.
Move out of the way! Move out of the way! Move out of the way!
Our entrance, I believe, with their vehicles.
Can you believe the way those people behave with the cops? So I've been, excuse me, I've been monitoring lefty radio here because it's the leftiest. Oh shit, not yet. And I was listening to a program where they were interviewing some dumb young adolescent girl about some protest. Antifa showed up. It might have been the Klamath Falls protest that I didn't even know about till somebody mentioned it here last time. But in Klamath Falls, which is in southern Oregon and is not like Portland at all, They got rumors of busloads of Antifa heading to town. So a bunch of Oregonians, you know, a bunch of Klamath Falls people got out there, went out there with guns and lined up in the street. Yeah, come on in. You know, and so, of course, here, the media tried to portray it, to the extent they paid attention, tried to portray us, oh, yeah, look at these crazy right-wingers, oh, my gosh. So irrational. Or try to make fun of them. Try to cast it as, you know, a bunch of right-wingers getting fooled by some impromptu conspiracy theory or something. But then I'm listening to KBOO, and they're interviewing a girl who I guess was one of the organizers. And they're all like kids, right? Just dumb kids. But there was an Antifa protest organized, at least. And who knows how far they would have gone. If they get enough people out there, they would have broke a bunch of shit. But who really knows? Anyway, she's out there telling the tale of woe. How, oh yeah, they showed up with guns. They didn't do anything illegal, right? They're open carry, legal packing. But she's on KBOO, the kids, trying to talk about how, yeah, oh my God, we were threatened by the Nazis. But it was hilarious because she says, and then we contacted law enforcement. Antifa brings their BLM, all cops are bastards campaign to Klamath Falls, and they called the cops basically on the legal protesters because they were packing. And I just thought it was hilarious. But then I got a shock, and the show closed out, and I realized what I've been listening to is something, I haven't been able to find it. It's something called Rural Revolt, or something like that. And what it is a program, apparently, that these lefties got, where they go out to places like rural Oregon, like Klamath Falls, and contact people like this dumb kid who was on the radio and organizing her own BLM protest in poor little Klamath Falls. But it's a fucking program funded by, whatever Soros-esque fucking money, whose goal is to go out and radicalize the rural Oregon, the little bit of white resistance is left in Oregon. Oregon and Washington State both follow a similar pattern. Washington with Seattle, Oregon with Portland being their largest cities, dominated by lefties and demographics, and being enough to shift the whole state blue. But still having, outside of these urban areas, it's still just regular good white people who want to be left alone. And that's not enough for them, of course. They're actively out in poor places like Klamath Falls trying to get the kids all worked up about shit like BLM. Anyway, we'll continue to monitor them. Cognitive dissonance makes a good point. Doublethink is being selected for. Yeah, God. Yeah, let's not go through this evolutionary bottleneck where we become whatever these people are, because I don't think it's good for humanity. Yes, goings down. Thank God those brave men stormed the shores at Normandy so we could have this. Cognitive dissonance says, I tried watching Saving Private Ryan for the first time, survived until Vin Diesel. I forgot he was in that. Now, that movie's obnoxious, except the scenes of landing on the beach are pretty awesome. If you notice, he completely adopts the look that Kubrick had for Full Metal Jacket. When those guys are running up the beaches in Normandy, he's down on the ground behind him. Your point of view is like you're running along with them. And the whole look and everything, yeah. I know Spielberg, deliberately did that. Yeah, those scenes are great. And then it's just ridiculous, Then it's just, how he tries to cast it around, okay, saving this one guy. I guess we should be grateful, right, that he casts it as saving this guy and not as, what we expect. Oh, we're saving the Jews from the Nazis, or we're saving democracy from the Nazis. But it's ultimately unsatisfying if you're going to make a war movie and it's just about saving your buddy. I don't know. I like the Kubrick approach. It's just that he decided with Full Metal Jacket, it's thoroughly detached, which is his style. We're making no moral judgment. We're going to appreciate war for its, God help us, for its beauty. I mean, I was watching again. I was thinking of the ending scene of Kubrick, of Full Metal Jacket, right? The guys have been through all this weird shit, and they're marching off through these smoking ruins, and I guess it's just been bombed. They're marching through this night of smoking ruins, right? All these young American boys singing the Mickey Mouse song. It's so perfectly Jarhead, too. It's so perfectly, having been in the Corps, knowing the sense of humor that develops. I mean, it's just the sort of thing you'd expect fucking guys, Jarheads, to do out there. Somebody starts singing that fucking song. But seeing those guys march off into the flames, I got a different idea, because they just got back in from Antifa, you know, having their fun. I was thinking, that's Antifa rolling home, you know. And the voiceover narrator in the scene says, you know, in this funny, you know, pseudo fucking grand language, he says something like, enough for today. We have nailed our names in the pages of history. Enough for today. And I think that's those fucking Antifa fuckers right now, triumphant, marching home. And then he says something else that is my fucking point of view regarding all of this shit. I feel just like that fucking guy walking into that flyer, you know, when he says something about, I'm glad to be alive. I'm in a world of shit, but I am alive and short. Short in the military means you don't have much time till you get out. And I kind of feel that way about life, too. Like, you know, I am kind of relieved of the young man's burden of having that much longer to face in this hell. So I am glad that I am alive and short, but I am in a world of shit.
battenti, suona chitarra mia, suona chitarra mia, suona battenti, suona chitarra mia, suona battenti. Li colpi giusti lo suona Toretina, li colpi giusti suona chitarra mia, li colpi giusti suona chitarra mia. Ruspiti dallo sonno, non più dormire, ruspiti dallo sonno, non più dormire, ca non ci dormi qua, ca non ci dormi quando, ca non ci dormi quando c'avi mamari, ca non ci dormi quando c'avi mamari. C'avi mamari da un letto di violi, c'avi mamari e gli cuscini so, cuscini di seta, recamati e recamati e lì lenzuole soni recamati sono belli gli occhi tuoi e gli occhi tuoi belli sugli fruni d'ambrelli e gli occhi tuoi vivaci sugli fruni di mamma. Rapido bella, rapido bella, che io t'avi dava sa, t'ava dicere due parole, dimmela a me non ti scorda, t'ava dicere due parole, dimmela a me non ti scorda. Via battenti, suona chitarra mia, suona chitarra mia, sonia battenti, suona chitarra mia, sonia battenti, suona battenti, suona chitarra mia, sonia battenti, suona battenti, suona battenti.
Brava. One thing you might be able to do in your private life is throw shit like this at them out there when they're listening to their crappy ass hip hop, their crass entertainments. Occasionally I make the kids at work listen to a little opera. You know, no hip hop. I'll introduce them to it gradually. Play the accessible stuff, like that song, like the Pino di Vittorio version of that song. Mixed in with a little rock, but never anything hip-hop anymore. Yeah, our spaces are filled with their god-awful soundtrack, Globo Homo's soundtrack. Just plain beautiful, you know, in a postmodern world that reveres the ugly and the critique and the contrary always. Just producing something beautiful is an act of defiance in itself. I don't know why I can't see your chat. Oh, Joe. Yeah, I've seen Joe. Jim Goad talked about a movie from 1970, says Josephine. Joe. Well, it's about a working class guy in Pittsburgh or someplace, right? Falls in with some hippies. As I remember it, it was propaganda, right? Evil white, it was early on. I mean, this is 70s. Joe, it was early anti-white propaganda, I thought. Probably well made. I remember I saw it as a kid, and I saw it. It was on TV. I don't think it was a television movie, but, you know, it was on television. And as a kid, I saw it. And I won't give it away if anybody wants to go watch it. But the conclusion, you know, what happens, it was really shocking to me as a kid. Joe Rogan. They're trying to cancel Joe Rogan. And, you know, I'm indifferent to Joe Rogan. I mean, I don't dislike him. I think he's probably an okay guy. But, you know, it's a good thing, I guess, that Joe Rogan and others are going to just defy cancel culture. You know, even the Joe Rogan isn't / our guy. You know, he's defying them, and that's good. Good things are happening in the midst of all this shit, I guess. This is the trailer for Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Peter Boyle's pretty amazing, I think, as an actor. You got to give him credit. Long-time liberal, though.
Don't it make you want to go to war once more? Hey, Joe. Why the devil did we go to war?
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like you to meet Joe. This is what the American press say. The movie Joe must surely rank in impact with Bonnie and Clyde. Time magazine.
Money don't mean nothing to them. Motorcycles, marijuana.
You got love, you don't need this stuff.
How do they fall in love?
A hippie pimp.
You can see by the leg. No, it's got that great 70s realism. This was a Stark movie. Like I say, it really shook me up as a kid.
Cowboys and Indians. Hopalong Cassidy. Not really fags, but close.
What he like is to have
A little on the side once in a while.
I'll drink to that.
Grooving and grooving.
Joe, do me a favor. Give us all a break.
4 stars. Devastatingly funny. New York Daily News.
100 milligrams of Thorazine in the butt does wonders.
Get your pants on.
It's your ass now, Compton. Easter orgies.
She's anti-fetish.
That's Jap food.
The best Chinese restaurant in Astoria.
A rip snorter. A triumph. Judith Christ, New York Magazine and NBC TV.
Your whole life is one big crock of
He doesn't shop at Kimball's, Joe.
junk is junk, right?
Now let's get the hell out of here.
Hey, Joe. Why the devil did we go to war before?
Now, all over Britain, they're raving about Joe. A very savage film. Very funny. Scores a triumph. The Observer.
These kids are getting more than we ever did.
Just the credit cards, man.
You think I'm chicken? This is my beauty. All right, my friend. They're all screwed up, so they're screwing up the culture.
We didn't make them feel old-fashioned like the kids make us feel old-fashioned.
That's enough.
Crashes into the Oscar class. A gripping piece of entertainment. Evening News, Edinburgh.
Hey, why don't you get a haircut?
Maybe your buddy ought to stick to golf. From the balls out.
Colder than witch's tit out. Man, it's no good. It's panther piss. Come on. Get with the Pepsi generation.
The crazy thing about Joe is that
I could blackmail you.
A seething mass of rage, terror, and guilty envy. Sunday Telegraph.
You just balled me. You don't believe me?
you done a real groovy job on her.
Bitch bastard. Don't shoot me.
Takes over where Easy Rider and Midnight Cowboy left off. Forceful, shocking. Wakefield Express.
No, you can't stop looking. You gotta keep looking. I like to look at it once in a while.
You see the knife going in.
You know, we get friendly. We infiltrate them.
The best film so far this year.
Yeah, okay.
The Sun.
It's weird, the British narrator. It's very strange. Let's see what Peter...
Well, because I had been working at Second City and I had played a character who was kind of a reactionary, bigoted kind of guy, and against hippies and peace demonstrators and everything, I had my character all together. And when I auditioned for them, I just...
He later says he modeled that character on guys he knew back working class, wherever he's from.
Took off. And I just went right into it. And also, the picture was such a low-budget movie and so inauspicious that I thought nobody would ever see it. So I just did everything I felt like doing with complete abandon.
Were you surprised when the film caused such a stir?
Totally shocked.
And what was your reaction to the?
Well, when the movie first opened, it opened at a little theater on Times Square called The Embassy in the middle of July 1970, and the hot summer night, they decided to keep the picture open 24 hours. They kept showing it all around the clock. And I went down there to see it with a friend of mine and snuck into the audience and heard the audience yelling back at the screen.
in favor of Joe?
Both. Both, but it was really, it was stunning.
What was stunning about it?
Well, it just was shocking, it was surprising to me.
Okay. How did you feel about being a hero to some of the bigots who identified with him?
That bothered me. and when people would come up to me and say, "Hey, Joe," I'd say, "I'm not Joe," blah, 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 but of course I was.
Yes, you are. No, you are. You're Howat. You're Joe. You don't get to not be Joe. Sorry, Peter. Yeah. No, Peter is going to be rolling in his grave when we redo the Joe story and adapt it to the reality of the present.
Well, to them you were. And how long did it take before you were able to get yourself out of that mindset in certain people?
Until 1996 when we started doing Raymond.
I never could watch that show, Raymond. Yeah. Joe. There was another weird cult film you remember, Wild in the Streets. Remember that one? Wild in the Streets is probably applicable to the present.
You're the majority, and you can run the country.
The President of the United States.
President before he's 25. Following a campaign that broke every rule in the book, people went wild. Wild in the Streets. Starring Shelley Winters.
I've been under the care of an LSD therapist.
Christopher Jones. Diane Varsi. Al Holbrook. Richard Pryor. And guest star Ed Begley.
You raised up this monster at your rally. Your idea, Belli. Now, you two make your shaggy little monster behave and then get rid of him.
Kingman, hey. Hey, King. Touch me, man. See if you can change the hook back to what I am. I love it.
I think he bought the fight.
He lived like a young monarch. And listened to the voice of the young.
We suggest that the required age for a representative be 14.
Somebody's wearing an iron cross. You see that?
We're gonna make 30 a mandatory retirement age. We're gonna psych them all out on LSD, babies.
The Queen is receiving me! The Queen! My country tears of me! Sweet land of Britannica! Sweet land of liberty! Of the unseen!
You give me the tools, you give me the laws, give me the power!
Nothing can change the shape of things to come. But nothing can change the shape of things. Nothing can change the shape of things. Nothing can change the shape of things. Nothing can change the shape of things.
And just for the hat trick, I just want the preview. This is by the Italian duo who did the Mondo Cane.
This
series of documentaries that were like, these documentaries were like Sergio Leone did documentaries, right? They're very Italian, and they're very honest. And these guys got in trouble for going to Africa and witnessing the chaos of the post-colonial Africa shake-up in the 60s.
Is today's Africa. A new Africa. An Africa you've never even imagined. Untouched jungles, wild tribes, and colonial mansions. That old Africa is dead. Africa, adio. Today's Africa is modern, but it rises out of a chaos of political turmoil and primitive savagery. Some of the legendary Africa still exists. A few great tuskers, a few huge hippos. But only a few. And tomorrow, there'll be even fewer.
The guys get taken into custody here.
No newspaper,
It's pretty awesome.
no TV, no camera has dared to show the whole
They get
shocking
shot at.
reality of Africa today. Until now.
They witnessed
From
the
makers
massacre of
Mondo Cane
Indians,
comes the searing truth of
black
Africa
Africans who
today.
turned on the Indians,
The
merchant
struggle for
class that they
independence,
despised, killed the
Revolutions
shit out
in
of them.
Zanzibar, Angola, and Tanganyika. The story behind the apartheid in South Africa. The tragic civil war in the Congo. For 3 years, Jaco Petty and Prosperi carried their cameras through the burning heart of Africa, right into the heart of the action, often at the risk of their lives. And the film they brought back records for history some of the most shocking, tragic events of our time.
They tried to put him in jail for that scene. They filmed somebody getting summarily executed there by, I think those are Belgian troops that were involved in all that shit.
Africa Adio gives you the whole picture of Africa today. In a film so uncompromising, so bold, that it has ignited a blaze of controversy. The New York Times calls it dangerous, reckless. But the Saturday Review says it's one of the best films ever made. What is Africa Adio? Is it so dangerous that every foot of it should be withheld from the public, as one critic suggested? Or is it, as nationally syndicated columnist Bob Considine said, something the entire United Nations should be required to see? Africa Adio. You cannot afford to miss it. You may hate it, or you may love it, but you'll never forget Africa Adio.
Yo. Yeah. All relevant to the current year, I say. I don't know if you'll agree with me. I could try a hangout again. See if the computer shuts down entirely if I just try to open this up. Video call. Video call. This is a video call. Cognitive says New York Times and WAPO are the ministries of truth in the new state. Yeah, I guess they are. All right, dropping a link in the off chance that somebody will come in and chat with us. Okay, pasting. Pasty. Yeah, the NYT is the official mouthpiece. There's 1619 project. We have to go back and examine the origin of that. You know, because it's almost setting this up. You know, 1619, and they transitioned to it. Remember, we learned in a meeting at New York Times that they transitioned into it. So hilarious. This is where they talk to them among themselves. Well, since the Trump Russiagate thing didn't pan out, now we're going to do 1619 and talk about reframe American history entirely. You know, but the day before that, when it was all about getting Trump, that wasn't the most important thing in the world, apparently. The next day it is, because they're, you know, they've got a dry well with the Russiagate hoax. It's a weird sort of justification. I really would like to know who decided, you know, to go with that bullshit. Yeah, the full movie is on YT Africa Audio. I recommend it. You know, and it won't be out there forever. They'll eventually come around for it. Everybody involved with it, eventually their graves will be dug up and desecrated. It's the only just thing that can happen at this point. Damn it, I want somebody to come in here and talk. Who is out there? Who do we know? Who you gonna? Where's Claire Ka at? I don't know if she's still around or not. Let's invite Claire Ka. I know Jonathan's doing his own show right now. I should send an invite to Luke Ford. Alright. That's the fuck with him. He won't answer it. We'll try to get my friend Cam to come on and talk about what he's seen around here. V won't come in. That's okay. You don't have to come in, V. It's all right. Mentally, you got an invite. Yes, indentured servitude was a big thing back in the day. Cognitive points out Slav comes from slave. The word slave comes from Slav because so many Slavs were enslaved, I'm told. It's not even worth arguing with them about this shit, guys. Yeah, nothing's gonna appease the beast. You have to oppose them on the basis of your right to exist and nothing else. There's no objective argument going on here. With that said, you know, that still find yourself having to fucking reiterate certain essential truths. This is Tulsa. Some corn-fed white boys there. Nobody's wearing helmets. Fuck you. I like that. We got no helmets. We got no masks.
You weak motherfucker! You a bitch! Real life bitch!
This must have just happened right now. Well, they got these fucking cops surrounded. What do they expect? They're gonna let off eventually. Oops. I wanted to shrink it. I didn't want to get rid of it. Get in here, Oswald. Explain to me what's happening. Somebody has to explain. I need a young person to explain. Looks like the Tulsa police got them a little RV. Look at that thing. That's ridiculous. It's outrageous. But you know, they may finally need all these excessive military cast-offs, crazy things that they're dumping on police. Well, when I want the news, I go to Raz Simone. His picture is him with an AK. Should we listen to some Raz music? Some razzmatazz? They won't quit until they put that flag on the Space Needle. There it is. They're going to do it. They'll get there. One desecration after another. We're going to get to justice one desecration at a time. Yeah, I sure hope Trump didn't talk about record black unemployment today. That would be, I bet he did. I bet he did. Oswald says all 10 black people in Portland are present. That was Tulsa, I believe, in that last one. Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the rally is. I didn't see any of this shit. Yeah, these people are insane.
Fucking car! Let the car out, let the car out, let the car out. Stop the fucking car! Don't be banging on that car, bro. Let's go! I'm coming. I got your back, Captain.
Yeah, good footage. I should get good footage like that. All right, then. We'll shut her down. Nobody's going to show up. You guys suck. Get out. Out. Fuckers. Mute bastards. Let's shut her down. Let's do what the system... do what they're doing to the system right now and shut it down. Goodbye, everybody. Until next time. Thank you. Good night.